Good evening, good evening. As you know, every week I come with the same hyper energy, super excited, and always so grateful and appreciative for all of you guys who always sign on and are officially watching us every week. So thank you as always, first and foremost, for always being so supportive. Hi, Ray, we see you there. Thank you being on with us tonight. Just want to remind everyone what we last were doing the last time you saw us on the screen. What we were doing last week was being thankful and reminding folks what we were thankful for in this year. We know that it's been a crazy 2020 with this whole COVID pandemic. It's been very difficult. So last week we were reminding folks why we are still grateful to be alive, to be here, and have so much positivity in our lives. I'm super duper excited tonight because I, as always, have someone who's a part of my circle who's amazing. Tonight we have us a Fiera Dominicana who is not only an awesome woman, but my girl got credentials. She is coming tonight to tell us about what she does for a living and what her history has been working with different forms of abuse and just victims in, the different forms of abuse. She is a licensed professional counselor. She is considered for herself. I could call her a lot of different things. I could tell you what I consider her, but we're going to be professional. No, I'm joking. I'm kidding. Amanda is full of energy. She's amazing. She's awesome. She considers herself a trauma specialist. So tonight's topic is the long-term effects of abuse with Miss Amanda Peguero. I'm going to bring her on screen so you guys can meet this amazing Dominicana so she can show you what she is about and she can bring you all the energy, but as always, amazing content. Before we do that, I want to remind folks that are watching, as always, if you feel as though you're living around someone who is living with domestic violence or suffering through it, whether you're a family member, friend, or it's you yourself, remember you can log in to the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. You can also write to us on our website at loveshouldnothurt.com. With no further ado, super excited to bring her to the camera. Let you guys see who Miss Amanda Peguero is. Hello, love.
Hi. This is
You're on
really
the other end like,
exciting.
whoa.
This is so exciting. You're like talking about me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's doing me good.
Listen, people need to know that, you're on the screen, but you know what you're talking about. You got credentials, you on
Yes.
here, but you doing your thing.
Yes, especially
No,
in this field because there's so many Latinos that feel like mental health isn't a thing we deal with, and it
right.
definitely is something we deal with. So, yes, I'm totally here for whatever you guys need tonight.
So excited to have you. You're an awesome person. I met you so many years ago, but I've gotten to know you better throughout the most recent years.
Mhm.
Our kids have gone to dance together, and we've just been in the same circle for the past few years. And, besides thinking that you're awesome, hilarious, and funny, you do have an amazing career. And I think that, you just bring a great personality. And I'm sure that all who just come into contact with you just feel comfortable because all of us do. So I hope that's the feel that everyone gets tonight, the people that are watching.
Mhm.
Join us tonight. If you are watching this feed, share it, tag your friends, invite folks to watch because we're going to give you some good information tonight. So we're going to start right off the bat. Amanda, tell us what you do, what your career has been like, what you've done in the past few years, so people kind of get a feel for your knowledge in this field.
Most definitely. So, like you said, I'm a licensed professional counselor in the state of Pennsylvania and New Jersey. I started my career in trauma about 13 years ago, but I've been in the human service field for 17 plus years. I started my first job was at Congreso, and that's where I learned that I belonged in this field. I worked with the population of HIV and AIDS, and I felt like it was such like a rewarding job, but I was a case manager, so it was also
Right,
limiting at the same time.
right.
And then, but that's where I found a mentor and a person who said to me, "You would be great at like therapy, like being a therapist." And I go, "Really?" And she goes, "Yeah, you have the skills of listening, and you also are passionate about working with your community." So it's interesting because when I graduated from my master's degree, they sent us our intro letter, and my intro letter said that I wanted to get into this field because I wanted to provide people who look like me and sound like me um, valued mental health, not just an agency was just trying to build and give medication, but valuable, effective mental health support. And that's what I've been doing since the day I got out on this field. I then ended up working in Bucks County. So I've worked in both the suburbs of Philadelphia as well as in Philadelphia in the city. I worked for an agency that provided an array of abuse support for trauma victims, from as big as sexual abuse to as maybe a person who was a caregiver or a support person to someone who died from a homicide. So I've also have an extensive amount of experience on grief. But in regards to trauma, I have gotten the most training in regards to sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, neglect, and of course, DV involved in all of that. And
Yes.
now, most recently, I worked for a 24-hour shelter program for undocumented, unaccompanied minors. So, minors who were detained at the southern borders and were then placed in a federally funded program and then reunited with their family members. So, then I got a taste of immigration and trauma in that aspect of the world. And finally, now I'm in a school based program for a middle school. So,
Wow.
that's a
So
recap. That's a quick
yeah,
recap.
that's a this little part of your resume. Wow, that's amazing. So just listening to everything that you've done, I want to say that you must have seen a lot,
Girl,
a lot
girl.
throughout the
Yeah.
years. And I think the most important thing to note is something that you said at the beginning, which was, your cover letter, what it was that you want to do. You want to make sure that people
Mhm,
that look like us and speak like
mhm,
us,
mhm,
like they're getting real support. And I think that's super important, especially with people in the domestic violence. It's something that we stated earlier when we spoke on the phone. It's super taboo. It's something that people don't speak about. And so many of us who look like us deal with it and go through it. And they have so many questions, even in their future. You and I have talked about things in my life and my past, because everyone knows that this journey that I'm on is because it's a personal journey, something that I've
mhm,
been through in very different ways, different forms of abuse, not just domestic violence. So I think it's super important for people to know that there are people out there who look like us and who sound like us, like you said, who are
mhm.
willing to be there and kind of be a very, very listening ear, who are supportive. And like you said, not there just for a paycheck, not there to sign someone away and give them medication and push them on. And I think that
Mhm.
that's something valuable in our community.
Most definitely, especially something you just said, like just ding a light bulb.
Mhm.
Domestic violence is almost like a rite of passage in the Latino community, right? Like in the
Yes.
sense of like that happened, girl, you'll be fine. Like you'll be okay. You wake up tomorrow, everything will be good. You should be happy that he's giving you a house and that you're getting your rent paid and the bills are taken care of. So it's almost like you don't talk about that outside of the house. Lo que pasa en tu casa se queda en tu casa type thing.
Yes. And that's that is exactly what I say almost every show, verbatim. So it shows you exactly how all of us, the similarities of all of the homes, especially Latinos, minorities, how
Hmm.
we were raised. As I stated on one of my shows before, my grandmother, rest in peace, she used to always tell me how, my grandfather hit her, and esas son cosas que pasan, and
Hmm.
they don't realize that they made it a part of their culture, and they made it something that it was just like, oh, this is just regular. This is just what happens. Not realizing now that years have passed that no, this isn't something that should happen. This is affecting so many people and
Hmm.
changing their lives. And when I say changing their lives, it brings us to tonight's topic of, the effects of abuse long term. There's a lot of us who watch this show who either have dealt with domestic violence on hand, and not even physically, like you stated, mentally, verbally, or even kids who have, grew up in it, saying, let's say I never dealt with the abuse, but I watched it in my household, but it
Hmm.
was a norm. So how is that affecting me now that I'm older and I'm an adult and I'm living my life? And I thought that was super important to talk about. And actually, a question that was posed to me when I was in the hot seat a couple weeks ago, it was phrased a little crazy, but afterwards, the gentleman explained to me exactly what he meant. And it kind of was like, wow, you know what? Exactly. A light bulb moment. You're right. Things that happened in our past definitely affect our present, because some of us are able to just walk away from that past and kind of, for better words, let it go. Some people
Hmm.
just let it go, which I don't
Hmm.
believe is total truth. But we're able to just move on with our lives and let that part of our past go. But there's many of us who still struggle with that. And I do this show and I tell people constantly that it's a personal journey for myself, and it's therapeutic for me to be able to help the women and men that I do, because it is something that I have not been able to let go, in total honesty. So I do it to help folks, and I help myself as well. I've lived through various forms of abuse, not just physical, mental, and emotional abuse. I have dealt with, as a child, sexual abuse. And that's not something that we talk about in my family and as kids.
Hmm.
And that's respected that we don't speak about it. But I think that to be able to do what I do, you have to be honest about and transparent about what you've dealt with. Because,
Hmm.
honestly, even when I deal with my students, that's the only way that I can work well with them. When I let them know, listen, I've been there. I've lived through it.
Mhm.
You kind of allow them to feel comfortable and feel that space. So I think it was super important to have you on, and I'm super excited tonight. And I know that other people watching are excited to have you on. We spoke earlier, people, and she said that she doesn't have a filter. So she's concerned about that. And I
I am.
said, and I said, you've never watched my show. Nobody has a filter.
Okay,
And
good.
you are free to be who you are tonight. I think
Okay.
that's important for people to see who you are. So I hope you're excited to be here because we are excited to have you tonight.
Very much so. Very much so. So, where would you like me to start?
So I have a few questions that I pose, but you can go whichever way you want with them. The first one that I have is, in your experience, how has one's past abuse affected their present, in your opinion?
So, I think trauma or no trauma, a person's past is an imprint in their future, right? We learn as children, we send our children to school so that they can learn the ABCs and their numbers. But if
Right.
you incorporate their life experiences, that's part of their learning process as well, right? We
Right.
are developed by our experiences in our life. So if you grew up or from a very young age were in an abusive household, whether it was just as a witness or as an actual, survivor of that abuse, your life as an adult is gonna be affected. So how does that is affected? Trust is affected. The way
Definitely.
you trust people is just I don't know, because anyone who looks like, sounds like, or acts like someone that might have been very abusive towards you, automatically you stay away from. Which means for you as a partner, if you see someone that reminds you of someone, this person could be amazing for you in your life. But because they remind you of some part of your past, automatically there's an X. So now you're creating barriers in your life. You're not opening the gates for blessings to come in. And if you're actually closing the gates and making it very, very hard for people to penetrate and actually get to know who you are as a person, right? I'll use myself as an example, right? People say that I'm too kind, that I'm too nice, that I always let people in. So yes, I do agree with that. I enter every interaction with people with the thought process that if you are in my world, it's because you want to do good by me, right? And then I
Right.
get hurt on the back end, right? I'm too trusting. So a person who's been through a very traumatic experience could potentially be not trusting at all. However, the reason I use myself is there's a spectrum in everything we speak about. There's a spectrum. There's going to be people who are too trusting, like myself, and then there's going to be people who don't trust at all. And
Right.
finding the medium is important for anything. It's also going to affect your communication style. If you were only able to take the beatings or take the abuse and not say a word, like, and even let's go back. I'm going to go back to kids. How many times are you told the kids, you are to be seen but not heard, right? So that message as a child, you go over to whoever's house, you're to be seen to not heard. What if you were being abused? Then I'm not supposed to be heard. I'm not supposed to say what's going on with me, right? And if you ever try to share it with anyone, you know, and they dismissed you, not or the my favorite one, not that person. That person would never hurt you. They're so loving
Right.
and so kind and so available and so helpful.
Right.
So I think it really affects that component. And I'm gonna go back to communication because I think I kind of went left. I was gonna go
Okay.
right, pero porque me estoy mirando, but I'm gonna go left. Um, um, Communication is big, 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 big in regards to how it affects you. Because if you never felt heard, if you never felt like your words meant anything to someone or that they were respected, then why would you speak up? Why would you ask for help? Why would you say, no, I don't like this, or work anything out with anyone? So, in the long run, what happens at work? You have a boss who's like a stickler or who maybe is a bully to a degree. Are you ever going to stand up for yourself? No, you're not. And the same thing happens with any other relationship, friendships, and people actually could take advantage of you that way.
Definitely. Wow. So you have some stuff coming in, and I want to make sure that we pay attention to those comments. We like to make sure that our audience is a part of our conversation. Evelyn Ramos says it's tough because we want to give advice, one-liners to solve problems, but is there a typical timeline for dealing with drama? Trauma, I'm sorry, trauma.
Definitely not. Everyone's so first off, let's start with everyone's trauma is their trauma. There should never be comparisons. Like the worst thing you could do as a friend, a family member is to say, "Oh yeah, but let me tell you about my situation," because right there you're minimizing theirs. And you have the best intentions to kind of like find the relationship in that and saying like, "Girl, I know what you've been to," or "Dude, like I know what you've been through." But sometimes what that does is minimize the person, right? And what I can recuperate from quickly might be something that someone else needs longer time. I will say that with intent and inner motivation and desire, that timeline can be progressive and a little bit faster than it would have been if you just sit there and wait for things to change.
Right.
Which a lot of people do that. A lot of people say, I don't need to talk to anyone. I'm good.
Yeah.
I talk to God. That's a big one. Yo hablo
Yeah.
con Papa Dios, and and I pray and I believe in all that. So I'm not down in that in no way whatsoever. But I always believe my mom told me, you pray to God, but you are the one that has to do the action. God don't come down and move you to, ella siempre me decía, si tú quieres un carrito, can I speak Spanish?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad.
We are bilingual.
Si voy a decir, si tú tienes un carro y tú le vas a rezar a Dios que un carro, tú no puedes esperar que venga el carro y te den, toma la llave. Like, you can't wait for somebody to hear, here's the keys to the car. You got to be able to actually put action to what you're asking for. It's not, no offense to spirituality, because as you see, I got my Jesus piece on. I'm all about God. You have to actually visualize what you want and actually put actions behind it. So, for example, I have a vision board in my bedroom, right? Because I want my subconscious to constantly be in working in the things that I want for my future. And I surprise myself all the time when I see like simple things like I wanted this pretty purse and now I own the purse. And I'm not tagging the purse on my Amazon gift, I'm not doing that stuff, but like it's just my subconscious is working towards my benefit. I wanted to do, adjunct teaching. That's an opportunity that hopefully is coming down the line. Like, do you see what I'm saying? So it's the same thing. And not to make it about that, but it's just, I want you to know that like they do align in the sense of if you have the motivation and you have the drive and you have a clear vision of where you want to be. And that's important. If you don't know where you want to be, how are you going to get out of it? How are you going to move forward? You need to be able to know where you're going. And that's the number one part of therapy is what's your goal in therapy? Some people just say, I want to feel better. Okay. What does that look like to you?
Right.
Because what it looks like to that person, to one person does not. I'm going to tell you, as a person who's carried cases of 25 plus, I have never had two clients that are exactly the same in their therapy. They might have very similar abuse patterns, but the process is way different.
Amazing. So Carmen says, those that have been abused may not even desire to trust, or it may take a while before they learn to trust again. Definitely. I think that's the problem with a lot of the people who have dealt with some form of abuse. And even if it's not, it's just like in a relationship. So even if it's not abuse per se, someone hitting me or someone lying to me or whatever the case may be, a man or a woman can cheat on you and can
Mm-hmm.
do it for years. And you've accepted it for so long because you feel
Mm-hmm.
like at least I have someone.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you leave that relationship, it takes a very long time for the trust to come back.
For
So it
sure.
may affect the next relationship you're in because you're carrying that just like trauma. For some people, that is a trauma because that's
Mm-hmm.
something that, they've put their entire life into the person. They've invested so much into that person. And then they find out that they're in, there's no fidelity in that relationship after you've
Mm-hmm.
invested so much. So it's the same thing as, as living a trauma. It's something that you continue to carry. And it's like, I can't trust, I can't do anything because in the back of your mind, that person walks out the door and you're like, he's with somebody. If he doesn't
Yeah.
call you or answer you quickly, he's with somebody. So I think
Yeah.
that trauma and just all of these different forms of just abuse are something that we as adults carry and kids carry, something that
For
we worry
sure.
about even in our own children. I'm very big on, if I have an argument with my significant other, can my daughter hear it? Or, if something is happening in her father's house, did she hear it? Because even though she's not physically the person who's being abused, in her mind, she's still taking all of that in. And in her
Mm-hmm.
mind, that's still affecting
Mm-hmm.
her. Um,
So can I
so
say just 2 points really
yeah,
quickly? So one point is we can't trust others until we trust ourselves. And what
right.
happens in relationships and after abuse or whatever is that you don't trust yourself. You don't trust your instincts. You don't trust the way you're thinking. You don't even trust your decision making. How many times have you heard, oh, you sure know how to pick them? You
Yeah.
know that line?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
because your magnet is like, let me pick this person who's gonna hit on me, or let me pick this person who's gonna abuse me, or let me pick this person that's gonna cheat on me. When we
Right.
fall in love with people's characteristics, personalities. So that
Right.
was the first point. The second point that you said about kids, it's important to understand that arguments are normal things to happen in relationship, disagreements, right?
Right.
What we don't ever teach our kids is reconciliation. So a
Yes.
kid that hears an argument with a parent, aunt, uncle, whoever, I always tell my families, make sure they know you guys talked about it. Make sure they know that you guys reconcile. That it's not like we just blah, 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 and then the next morning we all lovey-dovey and never talked about it. Because we're teaching them that it's appropriate communication. And even with the way you interact with your children, when I get mad at my kids, I tell them, I get real Dominican. And if you guys have any Dominican families, my Spanish sounds, bien tirado. My mom heard me the other day and she was like, ay, mija, tú estás bien dominicana. And I'm like, well, whatever. But then I say to them, even sometimes it takes an hour or more, but I go like, I'm really mad at you, but I still love you. And we will
Yes.
get over this. So it's
Yeah.
important to provide that for children, because then they get to understand, like, yeah, I can get mad at people, but I have to be able to be better at reconciling in a healthy way.
Yeah.
And I'm
Definitely. I
making that
think.
I'm making that sound easy, first and foremost, because ain't nobody teaching us that.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. You know what? Because even growing up in a household, watching my parents bicker and have their thing, we never were taught that. It was just, okay, they speak the next day, then that's it. It
Mm-hmm.
was never this is the process and this is how it happened. So I got into an argument with my significant other. She heard it, but there was no after, like, but listen, yes, we did fight, but this is what happened. And we've
Mm-hmm.
made up type of thing. It's just, oh, well, the next day they just see us talking again. So it's
Yeah.
like, wow, ¿qué
Yeah.
pasó con esos dos? Estaban peleando ayer, and
Yeah.
then they don't. So again, like I said, I love to make sure that our audience is
Mm-hmm.
involved. And I do see, Melody, you have a great comment. I want to come back to that. I want to ask you another question before we get back to that. So
Okay.
the next question is, how do you think, and I'm going to tell you this much, the question that I'm asking now is what spiked this topic today.
Okay.
Um, it was asked of me a little bit differently. I decided to form it a little differently for
Okay.
tonight. How do you think abuse in one's past could possibly affect one's intimate life?
Traumatically. I mean, I can
Yeah.
find a better word, but like drastically. Very
Drastically.
drastically. So here's the thing, right? A lot of times, for women who've been in DV, for the most I I'm not a data person, but I'm gonna say I would put my money on that 80% or more of them have been partner raped, which means that their significant other, their husband, or whoever, forced them to have sex with them, right? So if that happened, and it might have been rough, or it might have been, some things that they weren't used to, so that already puts a space between you and intimacy, not the
Right.
person, you
Just in
and the
general.
word, the word intimacy, right?
Yeah.
Now you're in a new relationship, and as you get older, we also find out intimacy happens way faster, right? We like you're older, you know what you want and things like that. But when it comes to being intimate with another person, if you don't feel comfortable in your skin, that right there is a block. That right there is
Right.
a barrier, right? I can sit here and talk about how many things it will do to affect, but I rather talk about what you could do to maybe take a step forward, right?
Yeah.
Number one
Great.
thing is that people don't talk about what they like in sex or what they
Yeah.
don't like in sex. If
Right.
you take the time that, like, I like him, I like this dude, I'm into him, he's into me, he's we're having, these intimate talk, for lack of a better word, because I was gonna be like, he's DMing you in your box or whatever. Um, and now, why can't you have a conversation about what you like or don't like? Why
Right.
can't you say to that person, hey, you could say, due to my past, if you're comfortable enough,
Yeah.
I don't feel comfortable with aggressive sex. I
Okay.
feel more comfortable with foreplay. I feel more comfortable with like cuddling, and then we see where that goes. And I feel more, and like feeling comfortable with talking. Like sex is a
Yeah.
natural talk. Like you could say, I like it when someone touches my breast before they touch my vagina. Like it's okay to say vagina and penis, people. Like it is a normal word, and it's okay to say it as adults. to say like, I don't like it when you pull my hair, but I do like it when you caress my face. But those are conversations that no one has ever explored. And I'm talking about myself. And I don't know if it's a Latino thing, but like, I think I learned at like 35, 36 that, oh, like I could actually have a conversation with someone about what I want to be done to my body. Like
Right.
I'm not just a gift to them. Like, oh crap, wow, that's awesome. Well, let me tell you what I like. And let me tell you how
Definitely.
I like it.
Yes.
Right. And even to this day, I will say it takes a lot of courage to say that.
Definitely does.
Like it takes a lot of courage, right? And like, and not to be female or male, but men are way comfortable sexual beings that females are in general, right? We just, I mean, culturally, you're gonna stay a nun until you get married and leave the house. You're right, that doesn't happen, but we're gonna say it does. Um, so then all of a sudden you're with this guy, you're really into him, your body's feeling some stuff, but you don't know what to do with it.
Right.
So what all I'm saying is that it does have long-term effects because the trust is broken and intimacy is about a level of trust.
Right.
Even for the one night stands, honestly, you're trusting that like you're gonna have a good time. Let's be real. Trust is not just about giving yourself trust is like as tiny as like I
Yeah.
want to have a good time. Is it gonna be a good time? Is it not? You get disappointed sometimes and you're not. But do you trust yourself to do that?
Yeah.
If you don't, then you're gonna like step away. And I'm gonna go back to that barrier, but also communication. Can you communicate? This is not comfortable to me. This is not something that I'm comfortable doing. I'm not ready to take that step. I don't even like you talking to me that way. Don't call me babe. Don't call me honey. Those are
Yes.
not words that I like. My name is Amanda. Like, call me por mi nombre. My mom gave me 6 names. I'm not gonna tell all right now, but like you can pick any of those, but don't call me these names that make me feel like I'm just a property or a piece of like object that
Definitely.
you know what I mean? So I'm sorry, I can go on a tangent. So you might have to be
No,
like,
no, 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 no.
like
That's what you're here for. You're giving us your awesome. And I think, I always circle back to making it personal. And I do that because I never want people to think that I'm speaking as, for lack of better words, out of my ass, right? I'm just
hmm
saying things to say them. I want people to know that when I speak from personal experience, I think that's what makes it more beneficial for people to know that I come and I'm saying what I can experience myself. So for myself, I think that, the question was posed to me when I was in the hot seat. So it kind of was like, ooh, pressure on me to say, oh my God, what do I say? But now that I've had time to reflect and I can think of better answers for it, I can reflect by saying that my past trauma and all of the abuse that I've dealt with, whether it's been through domestic violence or even just the sexual abuse that I dealt with as a child, has played a huge role in not only the factors of my abuse, but also in just the relationships that I wanted to work out.
hmm
Because my partners, if they're not aware, my partner, if they weren't aware at the moment of any abuse that I've dealt with in the past, they don't know that I don't like certain things to be done to me. They don't like that.
hmm
They don't know that I don't like my feet to be
hmm
touched. And they don't know
hmm
that I like to cover up my body because I don't want anybody looking at my body.
hmm
So it has caused drama and caused problems for myself because my partner, then, if you don't know my past and you don't know the abuse I went through, you're just thinking, what is wrong with her? Like, I can't
hmm
touch her. I can't do this to her. And it's caused issues. And I think
Yeah.
that that's so important with intimacy, that people are open and communicate, especially
hmm
about trauma from your past. And some people may feel like, no, he don't need to know all of that. He might think of me differently, but I think that it's important that they do know those things about you, because I think
hmm
that it's going to make it easier for them to love you in a certain way. And I don't mean love you like, oh, they can't love you because of it. I mean
hmm
that they know, okay, I'm not going to do this because it's going to hurt her. It's going to trigger something from her past. It's going to bother her. So let me not do those things. So I think it's super important to have those conversations
Yeah.
because in the long run, it may definitely affect you.
So let
Um,
me just say, I'm so sorry, Chrissy.
no,
One
go
more
ahead.
thing about that is that it's also important for a woman to know what feels comfortable for her, right? And if that was her
Yeah.
first experience, I'm not going to generalize that's only women who are in DV relationships, but
Yes,
you
women
know,
and men.
so if that person only knows that experience, they might not know what healthy sex looks like.
Right.
So that's going to be hard. So one of the things
Right.
that I've done with my clients is I've encouraged masturbation. I've encouraged watching, pornography with parameters based on the entire, on knowing everything. Why? Because that's the only way that I can really have you understand what's out there for you to do in a healthy way. But before I even do that, we talk about what is your understanding and what does healthy sex look like to you? And some people can't even answer that. They don't even know what that looks like, because from a very young age, it was, sex was taboo. You don't talk about, that's things that happens with adults. And then their interaction with it after was very violent or abusive. And then how do you even know what healthy looks like? It's like if you, all you ate every day was ramen noodles and McDonald's, and then someone tells you, okay, here's all these vegetables, make a meal out of it. How, what you gonna do with it? You don't know,
Right.
because it's not, trash, for lack of a better word. It's healthy, it's good, it's gonna, you're gonna enjoy, it's gonna taste good. And you're kind of like, wait a minute, no one taught me how to do this.
Right. Yeah.
So
So as per usual, folks, it is our halfway mark. I can't believe we're already at 30 minutes.
I
That's what
know.
happens when you have fun. It goes quick, girl, quick, quick. So we are at our 30-minute mark, and I just want to do, as per always, remind folks that if you were in an abusive relationship, or you know of someone in an abusive relationship, you can reach out to the National Domestic Violence Hotline. Remember that if you feel as though you are around your abuser, you feel as though you cannot speak, they will talk and talk. They will talk and chat with you on their website. They can also text so that you can feel more safe when you're speaking to them. You can also reach out to us at loveshouldnothurt.com. We will respond to you within 24 hours. If you need immediate assistance, make sure to dial 911. And as if spoken, if you watched our last show, and I repeated, if you ever feel as though you need to call 911 and you are scared for your life and the person is in front of you, remember that they are trained individuals. If you call and you even ask for a pizza, they will continue to ask you questions that you can answer with yes or no. I think that's super important for you guys to know, because some people are so terrified to call 911 when they're in the midst of craziness. They are trained individuals. If you call and you say that you are asking to talk to customer service or even asking for a pizza, the person on the other line is trained to know to ask you other forms to get them to get to what you're trying to say. So don't be fearful, folks. You can call 911. I want to get back to this comment. Melody is she's the vote follower. My girl's on here every week. We had her on when we had our audience come on and pop up on the screen and give us some conversation. Melody's comment is super long, so I want to read it because she has things that she's trying to say to you, and she also is asking you a question. So let's get to
okay.
Melody. It says, do you have any advice in regards to dealing with the physical long-term effects from the abuse trauma and ways to deal with resentment because of it? Because of what I've endured from domestic violence from my children's father, I was eventually diagnosed with fibromyalgia. I don't know how not to have hate, resentment towards him, because I'll have to deal with chronic pain for the rest of my life. I'll never be the same again, and it is a very devastating hurdle to overcome.
You said Melody was her name?
Melody Black, yes.
Melody, first off, thank you so much for sharing your, your pain and what you're going through. And thank you for entrusting and asking me that question, because that makes me feel very special in my heart. So here's the first thing I'm going to say to you. Body and mind are connected, right? So if your mind is holding on to grudges, resentment, or any of those negative thoughts, your body's eventually going to feel it and exert it, which would mean that if you're in pain, you're probably in pain every day and it doesn't feel any better. I don't know the scientific reason for this, but the moment you clear your mind and your heart, your body starts to clear. And the pain, it's not that it's poof, it's gonna go away, but all of a sudden you'll start to realize, like, oh my God, like my my arms aren't as, my joints aren't as cracky as before, or pain, or achy, cracky, or achy as before, and all that. My recommendation is that if you don't have someone that you can talk to that is an outsider, and by what I mean by that is whether it's your clergy member, whether it's a community person who you trust, someone that's not in your close circle. We tend to go to the people we're closest to, and that's okay. Like, I'm not down in none of that, because trust and believe that before I call someone else, I'm gonna call one of my girlfriends. I mean, tonight, to look this fly, I call one of my girlfriends. Just saying. But it's important that you have people who are not biased and are always team you, right? So when my friends call me and ask me things, I say, I'm team you, so I'm not the right person to ask, because I'm always going to fight for you. So if you have an unbiased person that you can talk to whenever you're feeling down, that could be the hotline. I mean, I manned hotlines for many of years of working in the nonprofit world and in the trauma world. And sometimes people just needed someone to talk to. But ultimately, it's about working with your inner self. If you avoid the inner work and getting to the root of the problem, the resentment and all that's just gonna endure, and then it's gonna attach itself to the wrong things and the wrong people, and ultimately then it's just like a bouncy ball, like hopping from one thing to the next. And before you know it, you resent everything, you resent yourself. So the first thing I'm going to say is find the root. And the root is by finding out, where did this start? Where did that feeling of resentment exactly come from? And then follow it and cut it off. At one point, you have to cut it off and say, no more am I going to do this. No more am I going to feel this way. But you don't have to do it alone. And that's a key point. A lot of times we think we have to do things alone, and we don't. But you need to consistently engage yourself in addressing those negative thoughts and those negative feelings. You have to consistently do it. You can't quit on it, because they will creep up. People don't realize this. It's easy to be negative. It's harder to be positive, because there's always something going wrong in your life. So easily you could just be like, I quit, Jack. Like, I can't do this no more. Like, can I get a break? It's easier to do that than it is to say, you know what? I got this. Today was just a bad day. I got this. And one last thing, emotions are fleeting. What that means is what you feel today, you will not feel it by this afternoon for the most part. But definitely you won't feel it by tomorrow. So if you give yourself time. So here's my thing, right? 48-hour rule. I don't know if I made it up, but I like to stamp that I might have made it up. So my 48-hour rule means I have to make a big decision in my life, but I'm extremely emotional. I'm an emotional person. If any of you know me, I might be fun loving or whatever, but I'm super emotional. So I'm going to give myself 24 hours before I make this decision. I'm going to sleep on it. I'm going to wait on it. I'm going to wake up. I'm going to give my full 24 hours. If I'm still emotional, I'm going to give myself another 24 hours. What I'm doing in those 48 hours is allowing logic to come in. Because when we make decisions based on emotion, we are not having our best interests. We are being emotional, right? And sometimes emotions are very powerful and overbearing. So we just like, you know what I mean? In 48 hours, logic has, some way like wiggled its way in, and you can be like, okay, so, emotional me, mad me, pissed off me wants to do this, but reality is X, Y, Z, and it would be better if I do this. So finding that medium. So I hope that answers that.
That was awesome. You are getting a lot of love and feedback on this thing. A lot of people are loving you, and for good reason. People, I told you, she got credentials, y'all. Latina, pero yeah.
Yes, baby.
So you have another question post here. Ray Velez asked, I'll put his up because it's a little shorter. Trauma can affect different people in different ways, but does religion get in the way due to religious practices?
Yes, yes, for sure. Because if you pray on it, or forgiveness, those are the big two ones that I always hear, right? Forgiveness. If you forgive, you come, you allow your being, your God to forgive those who have done you wrong. You will be able to be to progress and be able and heal. That's the big connection. Forgiveness creates healing, right? When reality is you can forgive and still not be healed.
Yeah.
Right. But is forgiveness important to you, or is healing more important to you? They are not exclusively connected. But yes, religion is a big component of how trauma affects people and things like that. And it's important because you always feel, for those of us who grew up in the church and everything you called your parent for was like, I'm going to pray on it or whatever, it becomes this thing where prayer helps. I 1000 believe that prayer helps.
Yes.
Right? But it's not going to change your pain in the moment. Right? Because in the moment, it goes back to what we were just talking about, emotions, right? The emotion is so strong that what you want is literally to the being to come down and pull you out of the situation. And that's not going to happen. Let's be realistic. That's not going to happen. So there's that conflict. I'm going to be honest, right? So I got divorced, I think like 12 years ago now. And when it happened, I prayed and I was angry at God for at least 3 to 4 years. I was angry, like literally angry, because I said, I'm a good person. Like, why did this happen to me? Why did this happen to my children? Like, I'm a great person. Like, I have my faults. Like, I'm trying to sound like, like my poop don't stink, but I have my faults. But I'm ultimately kind. I'm loving. I'm all these things. Like, why did that happen to me? Right? And I was mad. And I was mad. And it was no praying. And I went to church because, my mom and everyone, ve a la iglesia, el Señor, tú estás en la mano del Señor. And I went and I did that. And I would sit in the pew and be like angry. Like, why me?
Yeah.
Right. And it wasn't until I realized, like, all right, girl, you like, so it happened. It happened. You had no control over it. And it wasn't something that you per se did that made the volcano explode, but it happened. So now what are you going to do about it? And I think it honestly took me allowing myself to be extremely angry and
Mhm.
allowing myself to not be okay and not be like, it's okay, I'm fine, I'm good, everything, I'm a strong woman, I got this. No, I had to
Right.
break down. I had to lose it to rebuild it, if that makes sense. I'm not saying that that works for everyone, so let me throw that out there. If you were in my other chair across from me and you were my client, and we were working out this together, we will build you up, or we would break you down the way you need to, because not everyone can take. First off, let me back up a little bit. First off is therapy goes at your pace. People think that you go into therapy and you're just going to lose it, that everything that you've been holding in your bottle is gonna just like you ever seen, I don't know if they still make those, the like Jack in the Box things that you open y salen todos los gusanos, like it's like everywhere. People think that's what happens at therapy, and that's not what happens. We don't even take the lid off until you're comfortable with the person sitting across from you. So if
Yeah.
you're not comfortable with me to the point that you're like, hey man, I was excited to see you this week. At that point, now I know, like, okay, we have a connection. Then we can even talk about why your mom pisses you off, which is not even your abuse. We can talk about like your, what we call them the cows, crisis of the week, right? We can talk about your cows, like, tell me what your cows are. And it'd be like, girl, let me tell you, my car broke down and my da 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 da. Then we can get into comfortability of like, okay, where did that stem from? Because who we are today stems from all of our experiences.
Definitely. Our past trauma affects long-term
Yeah.
effects, long-term effects.
Yeah, like I was
Definitely.
thinking about something you when you and I talked yesterday, and I was thinking about like, well, how does it really affect? I said, well, here's the thing: we take for granted what we know how to do, right?
Yeah.
I know how to open a bank account. I know how to do that. But a woman who was kept at home, segregated. Let me stop saying women. I apologize, you guys. A person who was, segregated from their family members. I got it. I got it. I got you. Remember, and that never starts. Abuse never starts from the day they get into the relationship.
Oh,
It's a lovely honeymoon stage. He
yes.
he or she is the best person in the world. You
Yes.
know what I mean? You are like Google Gaga with the little heart eyes and everything.
Color
And
de
then
rosa.
slowly, exacto. And everything, I got you. I got you. I got it. I got it. Bank account, bills, da 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 da. Da. When it comes time for you to leave, how you gonna leave? Who gonna help you?
Yeah.
You don't even know where the money's at. You get an
Yeah.
allowance every, you know what I mean? Like you don't even know how to call Pico to say, I got a new apartment. I mean, and it happens all the time. Like people take for granted that the things that we do every day, not everyone knows how to do.
Yeah.
Like some people actually need, and I've had to do that in sessions, like simple. And you always hear like, keep your documents at someone's you trust house and all that stuff. But my documents, I don't even know what documents would I need. Like
Yeah.
that. Like think about that. Like what documents would I need? I would just leave. So I think that it's a process, and doing it alone, I honestly don't believe that um is beneficial. It can be done. I'm not saying that it can't be, but I think that even if it's someone that you can bounce things off and things that you are fearful, and that's why I always, and I'm promoting therapy, guys, because that is what I do and I believe in it. Um, but having someone non-judgmental, unbiased in your life that can say to you, based on what you've told me thus far, how does that fit into your plan? Versus someone like, girl, I've been told you, or guy, man, leave that girl. She ain't nobody. Like our family is always going to be filled of
Yeah.
energy and emotions. This
Yeah.
person's going to be like, all right, well, I'm going to hold you to what you told me you wanted to do. Your goal in the beginning of therapy was, I want to feel healthy, or I want to heal. Okay.
Yeah.
And when you said heal, like we literally draw a picture of what it is by like checklists or like descriptive words and things like that. You said you wanted to feel loved, you wanted to feel harmony, you wanted to feel peace. And peace to you looked like this. And what you're telling me right now explain to me how that fits into that vision. And that light bulb going off on their own of like, oh yeah, this don't sound like anything I said I wanted to say or wanted to do. I just read the little thingy me salió say. Like
That's okay.
came across the
I do that all the time. Melody says in response to you, wow, that's really thought provoking. Thank you so much, Amanda. Definitely makes sense and gives me some direction.
But Melody, sorry, don't give up on yourself, girl. Don't give up on yourself. Even if it's just like you joining Chrissy's show every week, that's you filling your brain with some positivity that when your conscious is sleeping, your subconscious is slowly working. Them bells are working back there. So keep it going. Don't give up, girl.
Yes, Melody is amazing. I met her through my friend Jasmine, and she has been very profound in watching every week and being a part of just communicating and speaking to guests. And we had a show where we let the audience like just send us your email, we'll send you the link, you log onto the screen with us. And she came on and it was amazing. She was able to talk to the other women that were on the screen and joined us. So that was awesome. Melody is awesome. So we have about 15 minutes left. I have a couple more questions for you, and hopefully,
I'm
if anyone
sorry.
watching, that's okay. I love it. Anyone else that's watching, if you guys feel as though there's something you would like to hear about one's, long-term effects of abuse and how it's affect them in the present, Amanda is here to answer any of those questions. I love to get commentary from our audience, so feel free to put them, and we will put them up. The next question are, what are some exercises, if any, that one could utilize when dealing with past trauma, like forms of meditation, things like that, that maybe you have ask people during therapy, okay, this is what I need you to do. Go home and do this.
So definitely relaxation exercises are like breathing, meditated mindfulness, and I'll go more into detail on those. But just so you know, so my favorite one that I had to learn myself, because here's the thing, trauma there's little t's and then there's big t's, right? So little t's
Mm.
might be a car accident where no one's hurt, but it was very scary and traumatic, right? Which is an experience that I've had. So being in cars when I'm not driving causes me a lot of trauma, right? Because I'm like, I basically I'm saying I could drive better in my head, right? But it's important that you create exercises when you're triggered and when you feel your emotions on a scale. So let's go on a scale from 0 to 10, 0 being I'm chill, relaxed, cool, collective, and 10 being completely losing it. I won't be able to bring myself back down. You want to know where you are before you don't have any logic to make choices for yourself. So, for example, at a 5, you might feel like nervous, clammy hands, unable to make clear decisions. So, at that point, you are still connected and aware of yourself, and then you can make a decision of like, I need to slow down. So, I'm gonna use myself, like I said. So, when I'm driving and I get road rage, it happens a lot, and I feel my heartbeat like and then I feel like I'm clenching the steering wheel, which you all can relate to. Like it's like you want to make it melt in your arms. I do breathing in a square. So breathing in a square, and some people do triangle. But you're basically taking a breath in, holding it. Wait, that's not a square. That's a triangle. Sorry, guys. So you're taking a breath in for a 4 count. You're holding it for a 4 count. You're emptying your lungs for a 4 count, and then you're leaving it empty for a 4 count. So, for example, I'm gonna do one real quick with you guys. It's not gonna be a 4 count, be a 4 count, but I will go like and like that. I don't even notice if you saw how my body changed. Like you have to keep doing it until you feel yourself relax. Another thing is, and this is where prayer is a bonus, is that sometimes I say the Our Father and the Hail Mary over and over. My cousin and I were recently talking about this, how like we just say it over and over. You basically recite something over and over and over, and sometimes the Our Father becomes the Hail Mary, and like it just mixes up. For me, right? Or a song that you really like. So I love, I have an angry song and I have a happy song, and everyone should have an angry song and a happy song. When you are angry, where you want to take your fist and hurt someone, which you really don't, but it makes you feel that way, like you want to be actually physical with someone, but you don't want to do that because that's not who you are, you should have an angry song. You blast that song to the top of whatever speaker you have it on and sing along with it and let the exert that anger. Anger needs to be exerted. A lot of people, that is why some people get physical, because that makes them feel good. Doing this makes them feel good. So we don't want you to hurt yourself or anyone else. So put on a song, scream the words. I have an angry song. There's people who know me who get in my car and the song might be playing because it's on the radio. It's a Lil Wayne song, by the way. So yeah, because I'm a little ratchet when I'm mad. Um, and they'll be like, "You mad? Who did something?" I'll be like, "No, like it's just playing on the radio. It's not even blasting." And they're like, "Oh, okay." But you won't even like listen, like try it. Trust me when I tell you this. You don't even know me, but I'm asking you for a little bit of trust. Trust me. Find a song that when you hear it, the words resonate.
Yes.
Like the words, and if you want to borrow mine is Drop the World by Lil Wayne. Look it up, listen to the lyrics. It's how I be feeling some days with the world. Like, yo, drop the effing world on that person's head because I'm over them.
Yes.
And I just listen to it and I listen to it and listen to it until like I'm like, whew, before I know it, it's gone to another song. Um,
Anna's got an angry song. She said her sister knows, but can you say Eminem? I can just
yes,
imagine, Anna.
yes, everyone should have an anger song. It is so therapeutic to have an angry song, because here's the thing: when you're angry, who's gonna meditate when they're angry? Who's gonna sit there and be like, and who's gonna breathe? Like you can't even breathe. You're probably hyperventilate if you try and you're angry. So you anger, first of all, is to recognize the emotion, and then recognize what the emotion needs for you to release it. Anger always, guys, always needs to be exerted out. So if you are a person that needs physical, like, I have friends who join boxing clubs, like join a boxing club, kickboxing, like do something like that active, run, jog, like I'm going to do a shout out to people I know, like join Latinas in Motion, like, whatever you need to do, like join something where you're exerting that negative energy and you're sweating it out, and you will see you will feel so much better. Now, if it's an emotion of sadness or resentment, can come sometimes also as like guilt and feeling like all that stuff, you want to be able to do the breathing exercise. But when you're exhaling, you want to use a affirming word, and you want to use an affirming thought. So if I did my breathing exercise, I would go, I am powerful as I breathe out, or like I am amazing as I breathe out, like whatever it is. And you keep doing it until your brain and your body connects. Because if not, then you're going to it's an internal battle in your body. So those are a few things. But I always say do something you love at nighttime. If you cannot sleep because you have racing thoughts, find a soothing sound that plays in the background that doesn't have words. Don't do things with words if words add to your already racing thoughts. So for example, I have an Alexa, guys. So like I'll be like, Alexa, play like deep sleeping music, and it'll be like running rivers or whatever. But if that sends you to the bathroom point, no, don't do that. But like, like stuff like that, so that before you know it, or if you like jazz, like sometimes I'm in the mood for jazz, so I'll be like, Alexa, play Miles Davis, and she'll play his music, which has no words, and then I can relax. Um, the point is to get from the high number to a medium number. Not You're never gonna get to zero. Just please stop being unrealistic with, if I feel like crappy, 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 in the next hour, I'm gonna feel chill. That's not realistic.
Yeah. So, oh my goodness, let me tell you. First of all, I'll tell you something. Let me put this comment up. Lovely Jenny says, we want a part two with you, Amanda. The time goes by so fast. Let me just say that
I know what you're
her,
gonna say.
her words verbatim today were, if we have to do a part two, I'm already in. So I take your comment, Jenny, as a light bulb moment, and I foresee that she will be on again, because not only are we loving this conversation, I think there's so much that needs to be said about this. And I think that too many people don't realize how the effects of abuse are so long lasting. People think, and it's a shame. I've heard it so many times in my life from, shamefully, sometimes family members, friends, who just say, get over it, like it happened so long ago, like let it go. People don't realize that it's not that simple. Letting go of years of abuse that people have endured are not things that you can instantly just whisk away. It just doesn't happen. It's parts of life that either some of us have to learn ways to just get past it and move on and try to have the best life we can, or try to work through them. So there's so many comments here that I want to put up. So I'm going to be real with the people that are watching. I don't think we're going to do an hour because we need to get through people's comments. I want to make sure that people feel like they're heard, especially since we have Amanda here. So Andrew Martinez said, I just got on, so sorry. I am curious on your thoughts on the long-term effects on children who grew up with this regularly in the household. I feel as though it's something that affects me mentally until this day.
Definitely, Andrew. You that was normalized for you. That was the way a normal, healthy. That was your version of healthy, what it looked like, right? And no one has taught you different. So something I wanted to say earlier that just popped into my head again. One of the most important ways to recover or heal, because I don't want to say recover, but to heal from trauma is to create newer memories and happier memories, right? So if you were, seeing your mom and your dad or your grandparents or whatever fighting all the time and physically being abused, and you recognize that in yourself, what on either side of it, because let's be real, when you're a victim of abuse because you're a witness, sometimes you can't recognize the same behaviors in yourself. Because some of us can't even recognize the behaviors in our partners that are similar to the other person until someone else goes, well, girl, I mean, you've been dealing with that since your dad. And anybody who's been my friend, I feel bad for them sometimes because I don't know how to just be like, I don't just know how to be a listener. I've learned this year, right? I just saw a raised comment. Like I just learned this year to ask, are you asking me to be a listener or are you asking me to chime in? Right? Because sometimes my responses were unwelcome advice, but you're my friend. How can I like just listen and just let you live? But I had to learn that people have to live at their pace. So what I'm saying with that, I'm sorry, Andrew, I kind of like go off to the left. I said that earlier. It's just that it's the only way is to be aware. Number one, being aware of who you are, what you want to be, and how the actions and the steps you're putting into place are taking you that way is important. I'm going to use weight loss because it's the one thing that everyone can relate with, right? If you want to be healthy and lose weight, you cannot eat a McDonald's every day, right? You can't go to the gym every day and then go eat at Olive Garden or Red Lobster every day. You have to change something. You don't have to change everything. You don't have to give up your favorite your favorite ice cream sundae or whatever. But if you used to eat it 5 days a week, you might need to cut it down to 3 days a week so that you can see a change in you. And then next thing you know, it's 3 days a week. And then there's 2 days a week. But the first step is recognizing it and also being able to be aware of when something is a problem. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this. If you guys don't hear nothing else I say tonight is you can only change yourself. You cannot change another person. There is not one other person in this world you can change. As a mother, I cannot change my children. As a sister, I cannot change my siblings. And as a child, I cannot change my mother. So as a partner, how can I change my partner? Like I can't. However, I can change the way I interact and react with those people in my life. If you're not good for me, then I need to step away. If you're great for me, then I need to get more of that. Be careful who you surround yourself with.
Yes.
Surround yourself with like-minded people in your journey and your goal and your path. If they're not going the same way you're going, you need to get off that train, boo. Like get off and create your own path. You don't have to follow someone else's. Create your own. You could definitely do that. And there's other people that are trying to create their own just like you. So you just need to find them.
Yes. So I don't know if you're watching as you're talking. I'm putting them up so you can see them, Miss Peguero. You got people on.
Some I've seen. Some.
So Evelyn said you're locked in because they're asking to come back, and then the person who's the reason why I do this every week, right? Because I'm his protege for real, because he's been doing this for years. So Ralph is like, that's my brother. He's the reason why I do this show every week. He also has a show, and we talked about him yesterday, did we not?
Yes,
And
we
I
did.
told you, yes, and I told you that
Yes.
that's where I started off with him, right? So Evelyn said you're coming in. So we said we do a part two. Ray says we're gonna do a part three on Ray's podcast. So girl,
I'm in.
you're making moves, girl. Like you everywhere. And Ralph is the
I'm
person to
in.
know because Ralph, yo, my boy got contacts with like, listen, you gotta see who he on the screen with. John Leguizamo. He was on this John Leguizamo recently. Like,
Woo!
that's why that's my boy. You gotta keep him close.
So here's the
I,
thing. Here's the thing. I'm not saying this because like ooh like I want to be everywhere. I really feel that in the world we're living in today, if this is how I reach my people, this is how I reach them because I
yes,
honestly believe in that I came into this world to do good. So if
yes.
this is how I'm gonna do good, let's do it. Let's do it, and we can all do it together. I got a gang of people that's about that. I'm about that.
Yes, we are about that. Ray says he's already working on flyer for part dose. Evelyn wants you to know that she's her agent and she gets a breakdown on everything that happens.
That's my girl, and she carries. So be careful.
Yes, Ralph said these are such important conversations. They are. And I think that I have a very good following, but Ralph has years and years of followings. And I think that it's super, super important that it's true that we get these important conversations in places and
Mhm.
arenas where people are going to listen. People are going to watch
Mhm.
his show. They're going to hear what you have to say because they value him. They value his opinion. So I think it's important that every time that we're on every week that we bring people on. And like I said, I learned that from him. You bring people on that are going to do
Mhm.
something to help our community. So I think it was super important. There's a few more comments that were in there. I am going to let you see them really quickly before we say goodbye. I had another question. I don't want people to be like, this girl be on here forever. But listen, the one time true story we were on, it was almost 2 hours long. Jesse Martinez says, from my personal experience, having a real friend being on call, dragging me out of the house, inviting me to family outings, or better, getting me out of the house. I think that's super beneficial. I think that that in itself is therapeutic too, because when you have moments where you just want to say, déjame quieta, I'm locking my door, I want to lock myself in my room and not see anyone. It's those people like Evelyn and you and different people that say, no, you're not. Get your ass up.
Mhm.
We're leaving. You're not going to just sit around and mope. Let's get out. Let's
Mhm.
do something. And then you
Mhm.
come back and you feel so much better because you're like, oh my God, thank God they took me out of the house. I feel good. I laughed all
Mhm.
day. It may not end what you're going through, but in the moment, it's therapy that you need with positive people. And like you said, keeping positive people around you and getting rid of negativity and toxic folks that just constantly would prefer to see you angry and hurt or just take pleasure in seeing that. And they're not going to be therapeutic for you. They're not going to be
Yeah.
helpful. When you're talking about things that hurt you, they're going to say, yeah, I know. Instead of
So
saying, let me be beneficial to you.
so one thing that you just said, it's interesting, right? Because we are surrounded by people that love us, that hurt us on a daily,
Yeah.
right? And their
Mhm.
intentions aren't to hurt us. Hurt people hurt. Like people need to realize that hurt people hurt. And when I hurt you, because it doesn't look like the hurt that have been inflicted on me, I don't realize that that's what I'm doing to you until you call me out on it. So setting boundaries, I like boundaries are my favorite thing. Like we're not gonna do that.
Yeah.
Like that's not acceptable in my book. And the person's gonna try. I always say they're gonna up the ante. Oh, you don't like me
Mhm.
doing that? Then I'm gonna do this. And you don't like that, and I'm gonna do this. And if you stay constant and consistent on what your boundaries are and what you will or will not allow in your mind, in your heart, with your body, trust
Mhm.
me, eventually the message, oh, I don't mess with her. I'm not gonna mess with him. I'm not gonna mess with that person because they don't play. And the other thing is that friends and family are very helpful. And if you're a friend or a family member of someone who's been abused and who lives in pain, never
Mhm.
close your door on them. They're going
Yes.
to frustrate you. They are going to leave and say, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it this time. I'm going to get better. They're going to do it and they're going to do it. Just don't give up on them. Leave your door open. Let them know, listen, I'm going to leave my door open. So for me, it's I'm going to leave my door open. But you also need to realize that I'm gonna always be real with you. That's Amanda. Amanda's
Yeah.
like that. I'm gonna be real
Yeah.
with you 1,000 every time, but my door
Mhm.
is here. So if you don't want to hear me, you need to tell me today, Amanda, I don't need Amanda. I just need therapist Amanda, where she's just gonna listen, maybe. But
Right.
this personality is what I give my friends. I mean, I have a girlfriend and she's like, we need to go out, we need to catch up. And she'll be like, and she's like, you're real quiet. And I'm like, because I don't know what you need from me. And I want to be,
Yeah.
so this is me being aware of I'm a lot. I'm a lot. I'm a whole lot. And I do too much. I was even told that recently. You do too much because I'm a helper. So if you're telling me you're in pain, you think I'm gonna just sit there and watch you be in pain? I gotta do
Yeah.
something. So I'm
Yeah.
learning for me, okay, step back, wait until someone asks for help, and then give it. So as a family or friend, just always leave your door open and let them know that, like, yo, your key is under the mat. Whenever you want, you just come. It's there.
Yes. So I don't want to end. Tonight has been super duper beneficial. Amanda, thank you 100 times. I think that you were beneficial for a lot of the people who've been watching tonight. Definitely part two. I think that is something that we need to continue. There's more questions I had. There's more questions other people had, but I want, respect people's time. I want to respect your time with your family as well. But this has been super, super amazing. For all of you watching, thank you as always for being a part of our evening. Guys, you should be all excited. I made it through the night and I didn't cry.
Yo, that
That's
was
a
my
big thing
goal.
for me.
When you told me that, I was like, I cannot make this girl cry. I can't. So kudos to us.
Everybody watching, kudos to you guys because you all know I'm a crybaby and I made it through tonight without tears. So that is a step up. Before we close out, I just want to give you what Andrew's response to your response to him was. Andrew says, period. Thank you. As a witness, it's a memory that sometimes the smallest trigger can put it on replay and can influence traits like being overprotective over your loved ones, etc.
Yes.
Folks
Yes.
are thanking you. Such a blessing. Thank you, ladies. I'm trying to keep up with them. um, thank you for inviting, as always. No problem, Jesse. Thank you all for just being here. Ray says, Amanda, you're amazing. Thank you,
Ray,
thank you,
that is
thank
my favorite word. Whenever people ask me to put an adjective next to my name, I go amazing Amanda.
you. I hope you all enjoyed this evening as much as I did. We knew that it would be super, super dope with her. So thank you again, Amanda. Everybody have a great,
My pleasure.
blessed evening. We will be here again next week, same place, same time. And we will let you know throughout the week who our next person could be. And maybe Amanda. We never know. Make sure you pay attention. Have a
Thank
good
you
night,
guys.
everybody. Good night, all.